Hello, my name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing is brought to you by MJG Story Creation LLC. Go to mjgstorycreation.com and get a free hour consultation. Turn your idea into an epic story today. So, we are continuing with our discussion of life plans by doing the other side of the coin, which is our antagonist. So today is all about the antagonist character or the antagonist life plan. It's really important that you do both of them. And I can't really stress this enough, you need to have solid reasonings for why your character is doing things. All of your characters really are doing things long term. So, we start, of course, with guiding principles. And as you know already, guiding principles can be found in the guiding principle worksheet, right? But remember what we said about our antagonist. For the purposes of the guiding principle worksheet, the antagonist has a different expectation. So, just like the expectation for our protagonist was, let's see, part 2. So, and the guiding principle was identity strengthens the community. So, shoring up an individual strengthens the community. The expectation for our antagonist is different because although it's centered on identity, she is more about tradition. So, EXP, expectation. Her expectation is adherence to tradition, protects the community. Okay, so everything is through that lens. So she's still talking about identity, but hers is based on tradition. We should have traditional roles, which is different, which is the other flip side argument to our protagonist. Also, with the credible life plan, the credible life plans are to be done from the standpoint of the character life plan. So even though this is the antagonist credible life plan, we don't do their life plan from the point of the story that we're trying to tell, because we're not telling this character's story. They're not the protagonist. But when you make the life plan for each character, you need to treat each life plan as though you're making it for the character being the protagonist in their story. And so to that end, what happens is one of the communities, which is in America with Maxwell, if you remember Maxwell, that's her son that is in the States, that is also a foil for our protagonist. Let's put US. So he's a foil for her in the story. But as far as her life plan is concerned, this particular life plan that's coming, he's not, this life ambition, he's not one of the three main protagonists. One of the three main, not protagonists, foils. The foil that replaces him is Kwame from the General Assembly. In the country. And okay, so real brief, most African countries, they have a group of royal houses that managed the people directly, and then the the colonists came in and took over everything. And then when the colonists finally decided to leave, then there was a government system that was set up like the colonists, like the Parliament and Congress in these African countries for equal representation. So what you have is that the royal houses and the General Assembly, or the congressional structure, the representative structure, the democratic structure, working together. So the community is the General Assembly, and then her responsibility with them is to work with them on improving the life, the day to day of the citizenry. So of course, as Queen Mother, she would deal with like women's issues and try to resolve issues between men and women, like husband and wife, before it has to go to the courts, that kind of thing. But it's a slight change because this is her credible life plan. So now we go to the ambition key. So the life ambition, her life ambition is to restore her house, the royal house, to its former glory, its pre-colonial conditions. So before the colonists came in and wrecked everything, her family house, the royal house, was on top. Her great grandfather was the king of the area, period. But in everything that happened in the last 100 years, that has changed, and now their house is the lowest house on the totem pole, or one of the lowest. So her life ambition, one of them is to restore the glory of the royal house. All right. So we have one life ambition, and of course, we go down the line. So in her adventure, which is happening simultaneously with our protagonist, they need to win the government grant. So win tourism grant. Okay, and in winning a tourism grant, it will allow her to bring tourism to the country, to head up bringing tourism to the country, which of course would begin to increase the name of the house. Next is rivalry. So in order to win the grant, she needs to create a stunning video. Okay? Next scheme. She needs to convince the royal house fund. Okay, so she needs to convince the royals to fund the video. She's the queen mother, but she's not the queen of the country. She has no direct control over the money. That's the king in this particular case. So she needs to convince the royals to fund the video. We got an episode here. Episode is it's so funny. Secure American star for video. And now we see where our protagonist comes in. So the protagonist thinks that he's coming for one thing, and it actually turns out that he's coming for something else. So that's the flip that happens. So what you have here are two characters that are very manipulative, and it's going to be a lot of fun, or at least I plan for it to be a lot of fun. The last thing is the scene. And in this scene, and you won't be able to see it because it's not her story, but bully Io to throne. So, Io doesn't want to be king. Maxwell doesn't want to be king either. That's the reason why no one wants to be king. I find this out. Everybody can think what they want to about being king of a country or per se, but that stuff is just like being president or any other political office, and it's a headache if you just want to live your life. But since Maxwell is in America and refuses to come back to the country, come back home until after a king has been crowned, she has to bully Io to do it because he's the best choice. So now let's take a look at the logic of everything. Io, she needs to bully Io into the throne so that he can become king. That's how she's going to be able to secure an American star for the video. That's how she's going to be able to, once she has the star, then she'll be able to convince the leadership and the royals. So it's not just the king making decisions by himself. He has a council around him. So once they secure the American star, then she can convince the council to fund the video. Then they can create a stunning video and get an opportunity to win the tourism grant, and in a lifetime be well on their way to restoring the pride or the glory of the royal house. Okay, so I hope that made a lot of sense to you. You can see that she has a story all on her own, and the wonderful thing about this is one of the characters that your audience may like is that character. And so from a business standpoint, if you have something prepared already, or at least an outline of who the character is and what's going on, you can also tell that story as supply and demand. You know, having stuff available that you don't have to make up per se, that fits in line with not only what's happening in the first story that you write, but also in subsequent stories. When I come back, we will talk about the rest of the Credible Life Plan and how it applies with our antagonist. So, my name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing is brought to you by mjgstorycreation.com. go to mjgstorycreation.com and start turning your idea into an epic story today. I'll see you next time.